5. Pekné ráno. Veľmi pekné a skoré ráno. Ak môžem poprosiť, keby si teda ľudia posadali, aby sme mohli začať. Snažíme sa začať presne na čas. A keďže ma není asi moc dobre vidieť, tak ja pôjdem asi sem. Pekné ráno, ešte raz. Keď si otvoríte sociálne siete, tak, alebo ešte iné rôzne online médiá, tak tam nájdete klimatológia je náboženstvo. Greta Thunbergová aktivistka to nemá v hlave úplne v poriadku a nevie rozoznať, čo je dobro a čo je zlo. Poprípade, ak by naozaj išlo dnes o niečo tak vážne a nebezpečné, tak by vám banky predsa nedávali peniaze. Snáď by nešli do takého veľkého rizika. Alebo pred asi 2 dňami som dostala reakciu od zopár priateľov, ktorí mi povedali, že Daniela, my sme si mysleli, že taká inteligentná žena a ty sa venuješ takejto téme a okrem toho je to veľmi nebezpečné. Tak som si tak uvedomila, že v akom svete to vlastne žijeme. Na druhej strane, keď si pozriete relevantné zdroje médiá, tak zistíte, že podľa medzivládneho panelu pre zmenu klímy pri OSN máme posledných 12 rokov na to, aby sme dokázali odvrátiť tú budúcnosť, ktorá nás čaká. Alebo, že čelíme 6. masovému vymieraniu celej biodiverzity na celej planéte. Zdá sa vám to byť v poriadku? Nám jednoznačne nie. Ja tu sedím nielen ako zakladateľka tejto konferencie, alebo ako redaktorka, ktorá sa vo svojej práci snaží túto tému dostať čo najviac do médií, lebo si uvedomujem našu zodpovednosť, ktorú za to máme. Ale aj spolu s mojím priateľom a spoluzakladateľom konferencie Peťom sme tu aj preto, lebo sa veľmi chceme s vami podeliť o informácie alebo o uhly pohľadu, ktoré považujeme za dôležité. Dnes vás tu má byť asi 600 a my sme strašne šťastní, že ste sa zapojili do toho, čo vám chceme zdieľať spolu s vami. A chcem vás pekne poprosiť, využite túto konferenciu na spájanie sa, na komunikáciu, stretávajte sa spolu, rozprávajte sa spolu s odborníkmi, so všetkými ľuďmi, ktorí vás budú zaujímať. Prosím, využite tento priestor na to, aby ste sa mohli spolu všetci stretnúť, porozprávať sa a zdieľať informácie, ktoré sú pre vás dôležité. Tak ako prvý ročník, aj tento druhý sme sa snažili nájsť pre vás takú čerešničku na torte na začiatok, nejakého špeciálneho speakera alebo osobnosť, za ktorým si proste budeme stáť. A myslím, že sme vybrali naozaj dobre. Je to človek, ku ktorému sa je veľmi ťažko dostať, ale túto prácu má nielen ako svoju profesiu, ale doslovne touto témou celou žije. A tieto všetky informácie, ktoré som hovorila na začiatku, sú súčasťou jej práce, že sa snaží naozaj ľuďom zdieľať tie pravdivé informácie a fakty, ktoré by sme mali vedieť, aby sme pochopili, čo sa vlastne na planéte deje. My sme začali túto našu špeciálnu hostku atakovať cez Facebook asi týždne a mesiace a nedostávali sme odpoveď, ale vlastne my sme potom pochopili, že je troška busy, lebo má veľa práce aj s rôznymi inými ľuďmi, ne to ešte s nami. Ale sme veľmi radi, že sa nám to nakoniec podarilo a ak chcete vedieť viacej, tak si teraz pozrite krátke video.
I was planning to be an astrophysicist because what is more fascinating than the idea that using nothing more than our brain and the instruments we can build on this relatively insignificant planet, we can study the ends of the universe. But all of that ended when I took a class on climate change because I realized that I serendipitously had the exact skills that we needed to address this urgent problem. My name is Katharine Hayhoe, and I am a climate scientist and professor at Texas Tech University. I study what climate change means to people in the places where we live. Climate change is often seen as this big global issue that only matters to future generations or maybe the polar bears. The reality is, it matters to us right here in the places where we live. So as a climate scientist, I take the large-scale information that we get from global climate models and I bring it down to the local scale so people can use it as part of their decision-making. We scientists use all kinds of ways to measure how our planet is changing, from satellites, eyes in the skies, to ocean buoys out as farther than the eye can see. When we put all that data together, it paints a compelling picture that tells us, yes, climate is changing. And not only that, but we know that the reason it is changing today is because of what we humans are doing to our planet. There isn't any magic threshold, but what the science tells us is the more carbon we produce, the worse it's going to get. I host a digital PBS series called Global Weirding, short episodes about all kinds of frequently asked questions that people have. The most popular Global Weirding episode that we produced is called What Does the Bible Say About Climate Change? Climate change is never actually mentioned in the Bible, but at the same time, from the beginning of the Bible, where it talks about how humans have been given responsibility over every living thing on this planet, to the very end of the Bible, where it says God will destroy those who destroy the earth, there is plenty that relates directly to our actions and what we can do to fix it. We need climate action at all levels. Individual choices matter. Acting collectively has even more power. But ultimately, we need a fundamental change in the system of how our society works. As an individual, I do a lot of things. We have solar panels, I charge my car, reduce our food waste, eat lower down the food chain. But collective action matters too. Joining a group that amplifies our voice, calling for change as our children are today. What gives me hope is seeing people act, seeing the kids' climate strikes. The fact that Texas, where I live, is the national leader in wind energy. But the most important thing I think that I've done that anybody can do is talk about it. Because surveys have showed that hardly anybody ever talks about this issue. And if we don't talk about it, why would we care? And if we don't care, why would we act? And why would we demand that others act too? The bottom line is this: to care about a changing climate, all we have to be is a human living on planet Earth.
Dámy a páni, prosím vás, privítajte naozaj nášho špeciálneho hostia. Veľmi sa ešte raz teším. Je to vedkyňa, politologička, odborníčka na zmenu klímy celosvetového významu Katharine Hayhoe.
How about, yes. Okay. I am a climate scientist. So I study our planet. And when we study the planet, we know that our temperature is increasing, already more than 1 degree C. We also know that 19 of the last 21 years have been the warmest recorded. So if anyone is 21 years old, 19 of their years have been the warmest recorded. And we know why the planet is warming. It is humans. It is us. Because according to natural factors, we should be getting cooler right now, and we're not. So what is happening? How is this affecting us? We are seeing that our summer heat waves are becoming stronger. We also know that our heavy rainfall is increasing because warmer air holds more water vapor. So when a storm comes along, there's more water vapor now for that storm to sweep up and dump on us today than there was 50 or 100 years ago. And we see this here in Europe, and we see this in North America, and we see it all around the world. We know that cyclones, hurricanes, and typhoons are becoming stronger because they get their energy from warm ocean water. They are also getting bigger, and they are getting slower, and there is a lot more rainfall associated with them. We know that wildfires are burning greater area, whether they are in Alaska, Canada, California, or Siberia. When we look around the world, we know that climate change is loading the weather dice against us. So we always have a chance of rolling a double six. What is a double six? A strong heat wave, a record-breaking flood, a large wildfire. But as the planet warms, decade by decade by decade, climate change is taking one of those other numbers and turning it into a 6 also. So all of a sudden we are rolling more and more and more 6s, and even some 7s, and we say, where did the 7 come from? That's what climate change is doing to us. We also know, and this is what I study, we know that the future is in our hands. Our choices will determine the carbon emissions of the future. Will we continue to depend on fossil fuels and end up on a higher scenario? Or can we transition to clean sources of energy? And as I was taking the train here this morning from Vienna, I saw all the wind turbines alongside. Can we transition to clean energy in time? This matters because our choices, and this is our choices here, they will determine future temperature change. Will we see temperature change of 4 or 5 C? Or can we keep temperature change below 2 or 1.5 C? The uncertainty is us. What will we choose to do? We also know that the changes that are happening around our planet are happening in places where we don't even see them. The ocean is absorbing over 90% of the heat that we are producing and 25% of the CO2. And as a result, we know that global sea level is increasing. It's increasing because warmer water takes up more space, but it is also increasing because the ice sheets on Greenland and Antarctica, the ice sheets on Greenland and Antarctica are thawing and melting. So when we look to the future, why do we care about a changing climate? We care about it because we know that we are conducting an unprecedented experiment with our planet. And it is the only planet we have. The last time carbon dioxide levels were this high was 15 million years ago. Were there 8 billion people 15 million years ago? No. Were there cities, infrastructure, water resources, agriculture? No, we didn't have any of this 15 million years ago. So why do we care about this? We care about it because at that time, when the climate system caught up, and it takes many centuries to catch up to what was in the atmosphere, global average temperature was already 2 to 3 degrees C above today, and sea level was 20 meters higher. Why do we care about that? We care about that because 700 million people live in the low elevation coastal zone, and 2/3 of the world's biggest cities are also within 1 meter of sea level, just 1 meter. We've known about climate change for so long that these are the photographs of the scientists who study it. Isn't that amazing? We have known that our planet has a natural blanket of heat-trapping gases since the work of Joseph Fourier in the 1820s. In the 1850s, John Tyndall and Eunice Foote discovered that CO2, carbon dioxide, is one of those gases. And if we increase CO2, this is what Eunice Foote studied, if we increase CO2, the planet would be warmer. She did her work in 1856. And then in the 1890s, Arrhenius, a Swedish chemist, he calculated how much the planet would warm if we doubled or tripled levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. And then the last person, a British engineer called Guy Callender, he was the first person to actually measure the warming of the planet from thermometers due to human emissions of carbon dioxide. The science is so old that we think to ourselves, surely if people just knew the facts, they would change their minds, right? They would act. So why are we not acting? It's not because we don't have enough science. We have had enough science for 100 years. We are not acting, I think, because of 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I think that I have to be a certain type of person. What type of person? An environmentalist, a green person, somebody who cares about trees. When I received the United Nations Award for Science and Innovation last week, I thought to myself, well, what is the innovation? The science is very old. And then I realized the innovation is this. We are starting to realize now, finally, after 100 years, we are starting to realize that climate change is not only a science issue, it is not only an environment issue, climate change is a health issue. It's an energy issue. It is a water issue. It's a food security issue. Climate change is an issue of poverty, hunger, injustice, humanitarian crises. Climate change is a human issue, and it is an everything issue. So to care about climate change, we don't have to be green or environmental. All we have to be is a human living on planet Earth, and most of us are that. Maybe all. Yeah? Why do we care about climate change? Because it is affecting us. A study by some of my colleagues, published this past May, they found that climate change has already increased the gap between the richest and poorest countries by 25% already. This summer, the United Nations found that climate change could erase 50 years of development, global health, and poverty reduction. So climate change could move us backwards 50 years. As the Prime Minister of Dominica, which was one of the islands that was hit by the hurricanes 2 years ago, as the Prime Minister of Dominica said, he said, to deny climate change now is to deny the truth that we have just lived. Real people are being affected today, and that brings us to the second most dangerous myth. So the first one, again, is I'm not that type of person. And the second most dangerous myth is that climate change is just a distant issue. It only matters to the polar bears. It only matters to people who live far away in places that we can't pronounce, like Kiribati and Tuvalu. It only matters to our children or our grandchildren. But of course that's false. Climate change matters to us today. It is already affecting us today. So what can we do? What is the way forward? The way forward at this time is not more science. The way forward is to have a conversation that does not look like this, a conversation that does not end like this, or maybe like this. Often when we talk about climate change, we feel like this. The way forward is to have a conversation where we begin the conversation with what we share, not with what we disagree on, but with what we have in common. And then we can connect the dots to why, because of who we already are, and this is very important, it's not changing who we are, it's recognizing that who we already are is the perfect person to care. And then we must talk about solutions. How can we fix this thing by acting together? What things do we share? We share the place we live. We share the things we enjoy doing. We might share the fact that we are parents. We care about our children. We care about the economy or jobs. We care about the places where we live. We share so many things, and we can begin the conversation with what we have in common. And then we can connect the dots. How does that matter to us in the places where we live? How are we being affected by bigger floods, stronger heat waves? How is that affecting our food, our water, our homes, the economy, our families? But then we have to talk about solutions. And this is the most difficult part for a climate scientist because we don't do solutions. We diagnose the problem and we tell you how bad it is. And then you ask a scientist, well, how do you fix it? I say, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a business person. I'm a scientist. But we have to learn about the solutions too because they include all of us. So what type of solutions can we talk about? We can talk, of course, about what we are doing ourselves, right? We are having a vegan lunch today, and eating lower down the food chain, eating less meat, is one of the most important things that each one of us can do. I only travel when I have multiple events. And so when Peter and Daniela emailed, and when we finally received the email, I said, well, if I can get from here to Brussels, where I'm doing another event tomorrow morning with an overnight train, then I can come. And I did. I live in Texas, where a lot of people drive very big cars. So when we bought an electric car, we had it plugged in outside the house, and every neighbor stopped to say, "What is that? Does it have a steering wheel? Where did you buy it? How much did it cost? How much money do you save?" And so we had conversations about that. We can talk about things that are happening in our communities, the good news of how our communities are changing. Universities, cities, even churches and schools. We can talk about what companies are doing. Did you know that Walmart is the richest company in the world, but they are going to be half clean energy by 2025? Apple is number 11, and they are already 100% clean energy. That's good news, and we can share that. I just read in the news last night that Google is now planning to go 100%, and they are buying new solar and wind farms. I live in Texas, like I said, and it surprises people when I tell them that in Texas, we have whole cities that are carbon neutral in Texas. They have the biggest army base in the US, and it is 100% carbon neutral because wind and solar energy was cheaper than natural gas. We have the first carbon neutral airport in North America in Texas. And this is good news that people need to know. We can also talk about what's happening in other places. I'm from Canada, where we have a price on carbon now across the whole country. And we will be talking about that later today in a panel. We can talk about what's happening in different countries around the world. We can talk about how Morocco has the biggest solar farm in the world, or the UK has the biggest wind farm, or China has more wind and solar energy than any other country. We can talk about how new energy being installed around the world, 70% of it is clean energy in places where people did not have energy before. That's very good news. But when we talk about climate change, we can talk about surprising solutions. Project Drawdown has many surprising solutions, including reducing food waste, education of women and girls, clean cook stoves, and biochar. Solutions are really important. Why? Because they give us hope. We need hope. Without hope, we cannot fix this. So to have that hope, have a conversation. Begin the conversation with what we agree on, not what we disagree on. Connect the dots to climate change, and then discuss a positive, hopeful solution. A solution that, in the words of one of my favorite scientists, Jane Goodall, a solution that allows our brain and our heart to work together in harmony so we can achieve our full potential. Thank you.
Woohoo! Katharine, thank you very much. I wish I could have this kind of positive energy as well.